Manipulation. So if you hear some yelling randomly, those are my nephews yelling, but such is life. This is actually really fun. Hopefully you all are getting a kick out of this as much as I am. Um, let's go ahead and I did some looking in the environment. I already did some analyses already. I already did this already. I can just clear it just so that you all can see it work. Okay. So from the last video, extractions, you should have been able to bring in the data. Now let's manipulate it. Or I'm changing up the lingo. I'm gonna transform it, but in your class it's manipulate. So here, you remember the library Spotify, library tidyverse, and again, I'm not showing my passwords. I may have to pause it to run mine, but because I just cleared it. But here's my passwords. I need to always run access a token so I can get actually access to the token. This is not even too much programming or anything, but that's just what it is. I'm gonna use my URI from the last class. From the last video, and then go from there. So let me just pause the video and now do my secret stuff and so on and so forth. Give me 1 second. All right, so technically I already had the code, so let me just go ahead and just run this. Boom, and then run Spotify. Bam, and then I think this should work. Hopefully it doesn't. There goes my nephew. It's fine. So now here's the data. Okay, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. So we're not, too far into this, right? And so we can actually look at it just for a little bit. And so there's a lot of identification in here because you can imagine Spotify data, hosting a bunch of different songs, different albums. So there's a lot of different identification that's being used. Hopefully you all took some time to look at some of these variables like danceability, energy, key, loudness, so on and so forth. There's some variables like this one. Now this is where we're about to use this, and this is like complicated. I have not taught any of my students about how to actually extract this data. I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to teach you what's really going on unless you have questions or a little bit deeper into the course. At least not this. Just ask me later. All right. So there's other variables. There's some more variables that I like because this data set is actually very complicated. And complicated in the sense that it's dense. It has a lot of different information. All right. If you're curious about these arrows here, because it's more than 50 columns, this allows you to go to the very last column because it says 61 variables, and so it's going to go from this is 50 variables right here. So maybe I think that makes sense. If it only shows 50, and it goes the next 12. Okay. Okay. All right. And so then from there, what we could do is mutate. So take a second and just remember what mutate does. Okay. If you took a second and you remember that mutate allows you to create a variable, that's correct. Allows you to create a variable. At the same rate, there's transmutate that you can actually use as well. And transmutate is actually interesting. If you use transmutate, if I start right now, hopefully I don't embarrass myself. I'm pretty sure it's very exactly transmutate. What it does is it does the thing as mutate, but it actually removes the variable that you're using to create that new variable. Don't need to go on demonstration. I rarely use it. I only use mutate because I don't want to delete the variables that I'm using. Okay, so that's that. But yeah, within this mutate, it's actually doing something very complicated. Not very complicated, but it's just doing something. And what it's really doing is remember that little complicated how do I say artist? Where is it at? Where is it? There's one of them again, but that's not the one I'm really interested in. I think it's an ABC order, isn't it? It's not an ABC order. You can fast forward this part. So this one right here. So what's happening here is that I'm not going to go into too much detail, but this is a data frame, as we already noticed, but it's a data frame within a data frame. So this actual row is another data frame. Okay, so this is the data frame with one row, I think 6 columns. And so what we want is this artist here. And so this code in and of itself takes that artist within each of those data frames. Okay, and it's taking the first artist. So when I run this, I'm going to favorite artist. I've now created a new variable. As you can see, it's an additional variable. If I move myself, I can't move myself. So it's right here. This is 62 variables. So I click this. Okay, scroll all the way to the end. Okay, I want to go to the end. I really had to move this all the way over. Okay, and so here we go. So if you notice that the first one said the Groove Trio, this is the Groove Trio. So that is getting all those first artists. Because the reason why I did one is because there's some of the songs have multiple artists, and we're just gonna go with the first one that's shown. So that's the one way to actually get. So you're gonna have to run this in your code in order for you to gain access to your artists, the artists that you're interested in from that data frame. Okay, especially for the video 4. Another thing that you can do, for example, is create this new variable called danceable. If the song is danceable, so if it's greater than 0.5, fun fact, how do they determine if the song is danceable? I don't know, but there's a blog that I've posted. If you look up, there's a website that actually talks about this, but when it comes to danceable, it's in between 0 and 1. And so what we're saying, if it's greater than 0.5, it's danceable. If it's less than 0.5, it's not danceable. I would argue, since most of these songs are jazz songs, they should not be danceable. Okay? And the thing is, it says my data. Traditionally speaking, I would say like my, you probably saw it in my videos in the beginning, I probably said like, danceable underscore DF, for example. Okay, and I would have went like this. So it has that 62, because this is a new data frame. I'm not using the favorite artist, but I could have. Okay, so then that is my danceable DF. I have this new variable at the very end. I'm taking my time. You can fast forward, y'all. Y'all can fast forward if you need to. And so these are all my nodes. But the thing is that you can imagine this is a lot to analyze just in the table. So ideally, we can summarize the information, right? We can summarize the information. I changed the data frame, so I'm gonna say data. Oh no, wrong place. DF, wrong place again. I'm gonna hurry up so you all can be done. And please, like, the point of this is for you to be curious. Try to figure out some patterns that you wouldn't have thought of. Okay. So boom. So this should work. Oh, 146. So this is almost. I can't do quick math like that. 650. Oh, 450. 32% of the songs are danceable? What kind of danceable? Like, I want to look at one of these songs, but not for this video. So do your best to be as curious as possible. And, let's see what you can find. In the next week or the next video, which I'll do probably in a day or two, is dealing with making visualizations with this data. Okay, so have fun. Let's stop this.